Major funding for the Miskatonic collection is provided by the George Edward Challenger Foundation, an organization dedicated to the exploration of the unknown. The International Endowment for the Arcane Arts. It's not magic, but science taken to a fantastic extreme. And the Dream Cycle Initiative, who reminds us that a mind is a terrible thing. Additional funding is also provided by PBS, the West family, and contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you.
Hello, and welcome to the Miskatonic collection. I am your host, Carlton Devereaux. I am also the curator of a fascinating and provocative trove of artifacts, housed here on the grounds of the Miskatonic University, in the otherwise quaint town of Arkham, Massachusetts. It will be my privilege and pleasure to reveal the facts and mysteries surrounding these extraordinary relics, not only to sate an ever-growing curiosity for the bizarre and the macabre, but also to enlist you in our quest to expand our unique collection. Once you become familiar with what to look for, you too may be able to recognize and uncover an important object or forgotten piece of lore. Who knows? That dusty old book on your grandfather's shelf, or that shimmering stone you walk past near the cemetery, may be a vital piece in solving a grand old mystery. I assure you, the world is filled with such exciting prospects. Today's show will focus on the highlights from our first official road tour here in the U.S., where I, along with a group of the university's expert faculty, visited cities famed for their eccentric histories. Before our arrival, we solicited the local populace, asking them to bring any items they believed to be of value, along with any curiosities or undefinable oddities they might possess, in the hopes of divining their origin and possibly acquiring new artifacts for our collection. I can tell you, we were most pleased with the results. Most pleased, indeed.
My dear lady, before I begin, can you tell me a little bit about how this came into your possession?
Why, yes, certainly. My husband and I own some of the properties along Church Street.
Here in Arkham?
Yes, and we recently were given permission to renovate one of the older historic buildings. We do a lot of the initial contracting work ourselves, and we happened across a false wall in the attic.
And you discovered this beauty staring at you?
Well, it was very carefully wrapped in canvas, vellum, and leather. When we undid the wrappings, we were just shocked.
Shocked at the vitality and richness of this image?
Oh, really? My husband and I find it ghastly.
Ah, ghastly indeed. More than you know. Do you know who the artist is?
No, but we noticed the initials R.I.P. in the corner. We thought it was some kind of an odd joke.
Oh no, that is no laughing matter. If you will look closely, that isn't R.I.P. It is actually R.U.P.
Oh, I see it.
R.U.P. stands for Richard Upton Pickman. This is really quite remarkable in many ways. Are you familiar with the artist?
Not at all. Is all his work so gruesome?
My dear, Richard Pickman was a very strange and colorful character, and quite well known in the early 1900s. He was actually from Arkham, and his family has a long history in the region. In fact, an ancestor of his was burned at the stake in Salem during the witch trials.
Oh my.
Sad, really. Yet Pickman started off humbly enough as a local landscape artist of some small repute, and those works are quite quaint, but it is only after he left Arkham to live and work in Boston after the First World War that he gained considerable notoriety. In that time, from 1921 to 1925, he began painting the most macabre and frightening images of hideous creatures that lived in the sewers, the dark alleys, and cemeteries of the city. The scenes were quite provocative, often showing beasts tearing and feeding on the flesh of human corpses and the occasional unfortunate passerby.
How horrible.
Oh, many found them profoundly disturbing. In fact, many of Pickman's works were destroyed or defaced when exhibited publicly. The artist himself vanished mysteriously in 1926. Few of his paintings survive intact, and those that remain are in private hands. I have only seen 2 personally, but this is, without a doubt, Pickman's work. The artist's style is very distinctive in its use of color, the subject matter, and his use of a textured underpainting technique. And this provenance is accurate, since he did return to Arkham for a brief time before his disappearance. And there are other factors as well. Do you have any idea of the painting's value?
No, really none at all. I felt strange about having it appraised.
I believe this painting to be one of Pickman's missing works, a painting known as Moonlight Call, which is only known through sketches and letters written by Pickman to his friend Thomas Thurber, and was thought to have been completed before his disappearance. Just to see it in person is such a thrill. Notice the creature's expression, both piteous and longing, drawn to the subtle beauty of a moonlit night, a fleeting moment of solace before inevitable return to its depraved and wretched existence as a carrion-feeding ghoul. Really quite tragic, don't you think? As to value, considering that it may be the most palatable of Pickman's paintings from his macabre phase, and is in remarkably good shape, truly an extraordinary piece of work, if you were thinking of insuring it, I would think of getting no less than $500,000 in coverage.
You're joking.
No. In fact, if this were to come up in a special auction in the current market, I could see it commanding a price upwards of $750,000.
In cash? Really? Oh my goodness. Ha!
But that's not all.
What?
I am sure you wondered about the frame.
Yes, kind of modern looking.
The frame is of superb interest as well. It is as old as the painting and is the work of André Varat, a colleague of Pickman who excelled in fine design and craftsmanship. Varat apprenticed with the Le Marchand family in France for many years before traveling to the US at the turn of the century. He used their techniques of exquisite woodcraft and combined it with his own style, which was heavily influenced by the emerging Art Deco movement. He not only did frames, but many other practical pieces, including chairs and furniture. This is just a beautiful example of his work.
What is it made of?
The wood is a cherry wood, almost certainly from Pennsylvania, while these metal strips here, the 2 smaller strips are made of exceptional fine silver, while the larger center strip is made of electrum, which is a natural alloy of gold, silver, and copper. From the obvious concentration of gold, this electrum seems to hail from western Turkey.
Oh my gosh. Silver and gold?
The value of the frame, which is also in wonderful condition, along with its precious metal content and semi-precious stone inlays, would place its value at auction anywhere between $20,000 to $25,000, perhaps even more because of its larger than average size.
How lovely.
And that is not all, my dear. This is so exciting.
What?
Did you notice these inlays along the frame here?
Yes.
Strange. Aren't they almost like buttons?
Yes. My husband noticed that they seem to push in a little bit, like a button does.
Varat often made secret compartments in his designs, which could be opened by certain pressure-sensitive points.
You're saying that the frame might have a secret compartment?
It is likely. I am sure it would turn up in an X-ray, but perhaps we could figure out the combination right now. Do you mind?
Oh, please do.
The combination was usually a matrix set to the numerical position of the artist's initials in the alphabet, so hopefully that would be 1 and 8 for R, 2 and 1 for U, and 1 and 8 again for R.
Look!
What have we here?
What is it?
Let's have a table here. Thank you. A leather portfolio case. Lovely. If I may?
Yes.
Extraordinary! It appears that you have examples of Pickman's other artistic passion, photography. To think these haven't been seen or touched for over 80 years. This is the artist himself, and right on the back, the photographer's studio stamp and date. Let's see the others. Oh my word. Oh.
You said these were photographs. How can those creatures be in them? They must be fakes, special effects.
Either that, or Pickman was painting his subjects not from his fevered imaginings, but from real life.
Oh, ha! Huh. You're not serious. Are you?
These photographs have a significant monetary value as well. Extraordinary.
Oh, they do.
Because of their rarity and controversial nature, I would have to say that they would bring in at least $3,000 to $5,000 each, while the whole set with the case would garner at least $25,000.
No.
Yes, so the total value of what we have here is easily between $532,000 to $800,000. But if you keep it all together, at auction, you could see anywhere between $600,000 to $900,000. Perhaps more. I'm really so happy you brought this along today. This is just the kind of thing we live for.
Oh my goodness, I must tell my husband. I told him to come, but he insisted on going by himself to take care of some annoying rats he heard clamoring in the cellar walls.
Rats? In the same building you found this piece?
Why, yes. There must be dozens, and they must be quite large, too, with all the noise they make.
Do you mind if we hold on to these pieces while you fetch your husband? I'd be happy to sign a receipt, and we will set up official appraisal documents for you free of charge.
That would be lovely. Would the university be interested in acquiring these pieces?
Oh, yes, certainly. But we wouldn't want to keep your husband out of the loop. Why don't you sneak down there to the cellar and surprise him with the good news?
I will. Oh, thank you. My husband will be so surprised.
Yes, I am sure he will be.
I am so happy you're interested in taking this piece off our hands. My husband and I really couldn't bear living with this painting any longer.
I have a feeling you will get your wish very soon, my dear. Very soon. Do hurry on back. Lovely, lovely.
Intriguing. Most intriguing. How long have you had this in your possession?
My uncle passed away about 3 months ago, and I inherited it from his estate.
What did your uncle do for a living?
My uncle was a physician for a shipping company out of Maine for many years. He said he was given the statue by a merchant seaman who died in his care about 20 years ago. He thought it was cursed.
Really? Well, I must say that it is quite an artifact.
It is cursed.
Well, many ancient items have legends and superstitions attached to them.
I tell you, it is cursed. Ever since it came into my possession, it's taken some kind of hold over me. And it only gets stronger and stronger.
Do you know what the statue depicts? Or its origin?
My uncle said the seaman had traded it many years earlier for some stainless steel knives from an isolated tribe of South Sea Islanders. I think it's a statue of some kind of fish god they worshipped.
The tribe was almost certainly the Morotiri, who lived near the island of Rapa Iti in the South Pacific. part of French Polynesia, but very, very remote. So remote that they suffered genetic defects from inbreeding, giving them a hideous, frog-like appearance.
The statue speaks to me in my sleep.
The statue is not native to the Morotiri. It was either something they found or was given to them. It is a type of totem called the Green Idol, and has appeared in different forms and in different cultures over the centuries. It does depict one of the many gods the Morotiri worshipped. This particular one was known as Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
Your enunciation is excellent, especially considering that this creature's name was never meant to be spoken by humans.
Cthulhu!
Yes, one of the great old ones, a pantheon of extraterrestrial beings that ruled over the earth eons ago. Savage, monstrous creatures possessed of godlike powers and abilities. Notice the inscription, written in a language whose origin predates the dawn of human history, but roughly translates to, in his house of Rielie, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming.
Naglui, Meglonafa, Cthulhu, Rile, Wagnagel, Vatagen.
That is very good, very good. Have you been studying my work?
No! This is what I've been trying to tell you. I see him. In my dreams.
Him?
Cthulhu!
Oh, this Cthulhu?
No, the real Cthulhu. He sleeps, but he can invade your dreams. He waits for the stars to realign, to emerge and claim dominion over us all.
I can see you're very excited. So am I, actually, but...
That is not dead which can eternal lie. Yet with strange aeons even death may die.
Now, there's no need to start quoting the Necronomicon. You wouldn't want a slimy fiend from the outer worlds to come down and snatch you now, would you?
Sorry.
Amazing. Clearly, the statue predates any known artifact of its kind, and it was not fashioned by human hands.
And so the Deep Ones toiled using the tools and technologies of the Elder Things to fashion a likeness of their lord.
Deep Ones. That does make sense. A race of ancient amphibious beings that date back to the early Mesozoic era.
Hewn from adamantine rock formed in the depths of intergalactic space.
Yes. The idol is made from the same extraterrestrial material as the famed Erebus tablet. But this item shows damage that only concentrated bursts of nuclear energy could produce. Still, it could be over 200 million years old.
As if something as feeble as an atomic blast or the passage of aeons untold could stop one of the great old ones.
What could they have been thinking? By the way, have you thought about the idol's value?
Its worth cannot be measured in puny specie. You insult me and all that exists by trying to ascribe an earthly value. The currency Cthulhu demands are the souls of unbelievers and their meaty flesh for his nourishment.
Well, I hadn't anticipated a lack of interest in its valuation.
I am mated to the idol. Though it dragged me down to the depths of madness, my soul transformed and mutated. I am forever bound to it, and it to me.
But I did have the university's bursar prepare this check based on what I feel is an equitable appraisal.
The idol is mine. No force known to man or God could... Whoa! How much does that say?
The funds are immediately available.
Woohoo! Well, was it hot in here or what? I guess I better be going now. Oh, I'm sure I'm leaving you in good hands there, Cthulhu, old buddy. Bye.
Indisputably. Come here, my little green friend. Ah, isn't he a beauty? The Miskatonic University is well known for its eclectic library of rare and ancient books from across the world, ranging from philosophy and the natural sciences to parapsychology and the occult. Among the many notable collections housed on campus, the Orne Library's special collection distinguishes itself as unparalleled, not only here in the U.S., but throughout the world. Such a collection requires an equally unique individual to oversee it. This is Miss Norma Treacle, the university's Special Collections Manager and our Master of Literary Antiquities.
Thank you, Carlton. That was most gracious.
I really must thank you for letting us interview you here in the heart of the Special Collections Library.
This is the first time we have allowed any type of media crew inside.
I understand that you maintain very strict rules regarding access.
Really, anyone is welcome. But they must be referred by a Miskatonic faculty or staff member in good standing. They would also require a minimum of $100,000 of insurance coverage, and must strictly adhere to the collection's guidelines and code of conduct.
I see that you do not allow scanners, laptops, internet access.
That is correct. We do allow manual transcription, but we supply all the materials which we review upon the end of the visit.
That all seems a bit severe.
The information gathered here was never intended for general consumption. Our patrons and most of our visitors and guests understand this. While there is still a great deal of beneficial knowledge to be uncovered and even rediscovered in this collection, it must be critically analyzed and passed through a moral filter. A broad dissemination of this material would be irresponsible, even dangerous.
But here we are.
I think it is important for the public to know exactly how valuable this collection is. Remember, we also have a wonderful collection in the museum portion of the library, which is open to the general public, that rivals the finest rare book libraries in the world. But when you are here, in the special collection, you are surrounded by material that is virtually unparalleled.
I see that you have gathered a few pieces to show us.
Every book within the confines of this room is a treasure. Many are one of a kind, literally irreplaceable. Some of which are so rare that few even know of their existence. These are some that I find quite striking. This is one of the 3 known copies of the book, The Memoirs of Ahriman, which was written in 1937 and printed by Phantom Press. It is the fascinating account of the disembodied spirit of an ancient Egyptian sorcerer, Ahriman, whose consciousness was trapped in an amulet housed in Chicago's Field Museum in the 1930s, but was somehow able to reach out to an indignant man, Earl Dante, a distant relative, and share his experiences with him over the years. It is an absolutely astonishing look at Egyptian life in the Old Kingdom's 3rd dynasty, over 4,500 years ago, presented with unparalleled accuracy and authority. Ultimately, the sorcerer's mummified body was discovered and placed near the amulet, which drove the writer, who had gained considerable wealth from knowledge and advice from his astral kin, to attempt to unify the amulet and the mummy in order to reanimate his benefactor and mentor.
Oh my.
Yes, but Dante was killed by a thief hired by Professor Klein Talbot to steal the amulet itself that same evening. He used the amulet to reanimate the mummy, but only under his command. It became much like the creature you have up in deep freeze in the eclectic collection.
Achmed. Yes, yes, mummies. Dangerous, intractable brutes.
The mummy of Ahriman's rampage in Chicago over those winter evenings in 1936 are well known. But what isn't well known is that all of the correspondence over the years between the spirit of the sorcerer Ahriman and Earl Dante had been transcribed by Dante, and was found by the police in his home. Phantom Press acquired the rights and published this book based on those writings. Unfortunately, the publishing house and its entire warehouse was destroyed in a fire caused by a freak lightning storm. Absolutely everything was destroyed. 3 copies managed to survive, only because they had been hand-delivered before the fire. The one you see here, one in the Covale Archives in Ellsworth, Connecticut, and one in the personal collection of the merchant magnate Abu Ben Azif.
Fascinating. You've been holding out on me. This will make an excellent midnight read.
I'll make sure to keep it available.
Ah, this is the next piece you'd like to show us.
This is the only known copy of Meditatio Carnis Miserios Demonium, or roughly translated, On the Wretched Study of a Demon's Flesh, by Andreas Vesalius.
The Andreas Vesalius?
Yes, the scholar and groundbreaking anatomist who created the seminal treatise and depiction of the human body in his work, the Humani Corporis Fabrica. This creature, or demon as it's described, was captured and killed after causing considerable panic and mayhem in the mountainous Las Apujaras region of Spanish Granada in the mid-16th century. The naturally cold weather must have preserved the body until Vesalius had a chance to reach the region and perform his examinations. He labored over the cadaver for over 3 months in freezing conditions during the year 1560. A local Morisco scholar gathered information about the incidents involving the being during this time, which Vesalius took, with his own notes and drawings, back to the court of King Philip II.
This must have been something of an expedition.
In a way. And the king's curiosity, along with Vesalius's secrecy until the book was published, caused a stir of anticipation in the royal court. The book itself was printed in 1563, and, while it supposedly deals with the intense scientific scrutiny of a supernatural subject, a demon, we now regard it as the first actual credible analysis of an extraterrestrial being.
Amazing. A Renaissance alien autopsy, if you will.
Exactly. The subject is treated with enormous detail. There is even a woodcut image which depicts a devil cloud, which we believe to be the alien spacecraft.
It looks like a flying saucer.
This work is believed to be the actual cause of Vesalius's downfall and his exile to the Holy Land. He refused to repudiate the book, and both the Vatican and the Spanish Inquisition, which, by the way, were independent of each other by this time, sought to destroy all copies of the book, and even began an effective misinformation campaign to at least obscure, if not erase, our knowledge of it. It was obvious that King Philip's later expulsion and dispersal of the Moriscos from Granada in 1569 was part of this effort.
A tactic that seems to have become tradition with the powers that be.
Fortunately, this copy was discovered on the Greek island of Zakynthos, hidden in the tomb of one of Vesalius's last benefactors. It is probably Vesalius's own copy, since he died there after an abortive attempt to return to Europe to re-establish his reputation.
What an incredible find.
I often have medical scholars and scientists visit to review the book. Many medical advances have been attributed to it, albeit without much fanfare. I was even told that Dr. Totlebine's latest breakthroughs in computer vision and image analysis actually came from the study of the alien's unusual visual apparatus, as described in this book.
Visions of the future from the eyes of the forgotten past. Wonderful.
You're such a poet at heart.
Looking at this next book, I doubt I will be inspired to recite much flowery prose.
Then poetry of another kind, perhaps. This book is the most suppressed Kabbalistic tome of all time. This is the first time ever, to my knowledge, that it has even been displayed to such a vast viewing audience.
The Necronomicon.
The Necronomicon. What an amazing history. The origin of this book goes back to the 8th century, when it was written in Arabic by Abdul al-Hazred and called Al-Azif, which was supposedly the sound of the howling demons that tormented him. Al-Hazred hailed from Yemen and was known as the Mad Arab. He worshipped the great old ones and visited the ruins of Babylon and other bizarre sites lost to antiquity, where he uncovered the strange liturgies, awful arcanium and spells embodied in this book. He wrote Al-Azif just before his horrific death, the eyewitness accounts of which describe his body being lifted into the air by invisible forces and viciously shredded and torn apart.
Ugh.
A copy of Al-Azif was translated to a Greek version known as the Necronomicon in the 10th century by Theodorus Philetus of Constantinople, and was rigidly suppressed due to its apparent corrupting influence. But it was not until 1228, when its translation from Greek to Latin by Olaus Wormius began to circulate in rarefied academic circles, that the work became notorious for its ability to compel occultists and philosophers of the age to attempt unspeakable acts. These experiments and the results were so terrifying and horrific in nature that it was banned by Pope Gregory IX in 1232, creating a stigma causing mainstream religious authorities